everybody. One of the things that I think is really cool about turning is that you can, for the most part, use any piece of wood. It's always exciting if you've got a burl or, you find a nice big log that you can make a big bowl or something out of. But a lot of times that's just not feasible for people. Either, maybe you don't have a chainsaw, you don't have a car big enough to do it, you're not physically capable of going out and getting big logs, so you're just sort of left to turn whatever you can get your hands on, which may not be what you would consider an ideal turning blank. You may be coming across stuff that's been sitting around a while and has got a lot of spalting going on and it's super punky, but sometimes you really come across some gems this way. So in this video, we're just going to see what we can do with this really small and kind of weird shaped piece of spalted maple. It's much wider at one end than it is of the other. It's very spalted and it's soft, but it's not punky. I don't really know how to quantify my description of punky, but let's just see if we can figure out how to make something out of this little piece.
That's going to be really small if I do it that way. Let's see.
I say that you can turn any piece within reason. Y'all know I turn some funky looking things, but you have also got to know that there is an enormous pile in the shop of rejects that are either too cracked or just not safe. So everybody within their own judgment needs to decide if they feel like a piece is going to be okay on the lathe or not, and make sure you're wearing your PPE just in case it isn't. Nobody wants to take a chunk of wood to the face. I actually turned this piece last year, I think in November. I still have my old tool rack, so I hadn't built my new spinny tool rack yet. I edited this video when we were on our way to Arizona. That's kind of one of the things that I'm going to try to do, is to shoot video whenever I can and then save it on a flash drive so that I can transfer it to the iPad and do the editing, which takes an incredible amount of time. It literally takes me days to get a video edited and get the voiceover done and get it posted, which is why I've dropped back to doing just 2 a month. I don't make hardly any money on the YouTube advertising, so it's really just not financially feasible for me to spend so much time editing and not actually just making product to sell. So I was originally trying to put out one every week, and that just was not going to work out with all of the other hats that I wear here as part of the small business and as just, part of a homestead. I spent an hour the other night in the dark with the ticks and the mosquitoes fixing the pressure switch on the well because I went to rinse out my bowl after dinner and there was no water. So I put my plumber's hat on and I went out and I figured out what the problem was, and I was grateful that it wasn't the pump had puked or the well had gone dry or some ridiculous thing. It was just ants plugging up the contacts in the pressure switch, but it was a giant pain in my behind anyway. It really seems like if it isn't one thing, it's 12, and it's usually 12. I know y'all know how that goes. Anyway, I'll stop blathering now and figure out what we're doing here, which is that I've just been nibbling away at this, trying to figure out where the axis should be that's going to give me the biggest piece out of this. At this point, I'm definitely just making a little bowl. Perhaps it's going to be the whatnot bowl, where you just throw your keys and whatnot into it. Now that I've moved the axis, I have to re-true the bowl up. Well, that spalting sure is pretty. The 50mm jaws for my Nova chucks have straight jaw grippers profiles, I guess maybe you want to call them, and the larger ones are dovetailed. When I first started, I wasn't paying any attention. I thought that they were all dovetailed, and I made a whole bunch of initial tenons with dovetails that went in straight jaws, so that was obviously not a great fit. I always make sure that I have a good shoulder, and then I use a square scraper to make sure that I have a 90-degree angle where the jaws are going to sit, because that's the most important part of a tenon, is where the face of the jaws sit up against the face of the bottom of your bowl. Even though I'm technically turning this in the orientation that would give me a natural edge bowl, I don't really want that on this one. So I could have had a larger bowl had I decided to leave it that way, but I really just wanted this to have a normal rim on it. It was such a weird piece of wood that I just don't know that I would have gotten it to look right. So I decided to just do a regular bowl, and it would just be kind of shallow. I mentioned before that this wood is soft, but not necessarily punky. I did some shear scraping, and I still was getting not as smooth a surface as I wanted. So I soaked some 3-pound cut shellac into the backside, and then I'm letting that dry while I kind of fart around with the front a little bit. And then I'll go back and shear scrape it again and see if I can get a little better finish. I really had to cut a lot to get rid of that last little piece of the bark. Well, it's not actually bark because there wasn't any bark on this piece, but you know what I mean. So when you're shear scraping, you've got the handle of the gouge dropped way down, like a 45-degree angle. And that's what gives you more of a slicing action and a smoother cut than a regular scrape. I think it's still considered to be scraping because there's no bevel support. And you get really nice, fine little angel hair shavings. Probably I just said something like, good enough. This is a Carbide shear scraper. It has a round Carbide cutter on it that's cupped. And then on the round handle, if you tilt it at about a 30-degree angle, you get a nice shear scrape. I don't normally do this, but because this is kind of soft, I have a 3-pound cut of shellac that I'm going to soak into the entire bowl and then let it dry before I sand. I usually do this after I sand, but I really am hoping that it's just going to help stiffen up everything a little bit. I don't like to do it before I sand because I'm too impatient to wait for the shellac to dry, and then it just gums up my sandpaper. That 3-inch sanding disc takes up just about the whole inside of this bowl. Oh, there I go with the 2-inch. Now we finally moved on to the squishy pad, which means we're getting close to being done with sanding, which is always a joyous time. And now we'll move on to the regular part of my finishing thing. And I start with denatured alcohol. I don't do this all the time, but this time I denibbed it with a gray Scotch-Brite pad before I put on the 1-pound the 1-pound cut of shellac. And I used that as a sealer mostly for the abrasive paste and then whatever top coat I'm going to finish. The shellac doesn't completely seal it, at least not the way I do it. So I'm going to put on the Axe abrasive paste first. So congrats to the winners of the prizes from the 10,000 subscriber giveaway. I did not hear from Jacob, the person who won the actual hollow form. So I'll announce the new winner of the hollow form at the end of this video. So if you were really bummed that you didn't win the hollow form, stick around because the person who did not step forward to claim it in time, and so the new winner might be you. And for the next step, I use Brad's abrasive sanding paste. And I'm going to finish this piece with Brad's tongue wax finish, which is going to penetrate into the wood and cure. So I want a little bit of extra protection on this piece just because it's kind of soft. I put a piece of the white shop towels in the bottom of the bowl, and then I put the shelf liner in. So the shelf liner is up against the jam chuck, and the paper towel is up against the bowl. And that has been enough to keep the heat and the friction from the shelf liner from basically melting the finish. And I've had that happen with all the different finishes that I use. And if it doesn't melt the finish, it leaves an imprint of the little waffle pattern. So neither of those things are desirable. And I have found that for the most part, a piece of paper towel in between them is enough to keep it from happening. Oh, got a wobble in the middle. Not flat yet. No flex in the bottom, that's always good. Well, it's pretty small, but it's also very pretty. And I'm pleased that I was able to make anything out of that tiny little chunk of wood. So there you go. You can do something with mostly nothing sometimes. And now I'm going to announce the new winner of the hollow form for the 10,000 subscriber giveaway. And that person is Michael McManus. Michael, get a hold of me. My email is up there on the screen. Okay, now before we get to our little bit of Bailey, I want to give you a little bit of backstory. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to just show you this really cute picture of him when we first got him. He was 4.5 months old. He was adorable. If you've ever heard a beagle bay, you know what I'm talking about. So we were coming back from a walk, and there were a whole bunch of turkeys crossing the road. And we were hoping that he didn't notice them, because when he gets to baying, it's embarrassing. It sounds like somebody skewering him, and I'm pretty sure that you can hear him like 10 miles away, which I guess is what beagles are supposed to do, but still.
You're all wet. Okay. No. Yeah, I know them turkey's feathers, isn't it? Okay, come on. Let's go. Let's hope that there's not any beagle recognizing of said birds in the road up there. Hurry up along there, guys. Go on now. Hurry up. They're not going very fast, are they? He's very busy with his nose to the ground. La 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 la, there are no birds crossing the road. Nothing is happening here. Nothing at all. Oh, there's more rats. Hurry up, guys. Huh. Okay.
Wow, really?
Uh-huh. Run, little things.
Well, I hope y'all enjoyed the video and the little bit of Bailey. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, y'all be safe out there.